On March 10, 1914, Mary Richardson slashed Velázquez's painting called Rokeby Venus with a kitchen knife, cutting it 5 times. Richardson was part of the English suffrage movement that fought for electoral equality between women and men, and the acts of vandalism was carried out in order to make visible the arrest and imprisonment of Emmeline Pankhurst, leader of the suffrage movement. The first groups of women who fought to achieve women's suffrage began in the United Kingdom in 1877. At first, the actions to get it were peaceful. They sought to convince with arguments about the needs to share rights. As expected, the most powerful men refused to give up their prerogatives. Tired, in 1903, Emmeline Pankhurst founded the Women's Social and Political Union, the WSPU, which called for direct action to achieve its objectives. This direct action consisted of carrying out acts of sabotage and attacks that caused commotion in many cities in that country. Their motto was the phrase, deeds, not words, whose Spanish translation is hechos, no discursos, and has been widely used in all types of speeches. They chained themselves to railings, threw mail letters in the trash, broke windows with bricks, and cut telegraph cables. They then planted homemade bombs and burned down churches. In addition, they attacked spaces for strictly male socialization, such as hippodromes, golf courses, and cricket fields. The suffragettes associated the state with the masculine, and their goal was to destroy it. In the newspapers, there was alarm talk of suffrage terrorism. In 1912, they planted a bomb in a theatre. The following year, suffragist Emily Davidson was killed by a horse during a race while she was trying to hang a protest flag around the animal's neck. The next day, her companion set fire to a harrow at the London racecourse. Between 1905 and 1913, there were 1,100 imprisonments of women for protesting. Each detainee declared a hunger strike as a way to prolong the protest beyond their detention. The first suffragette imprisoned on hunger strike was Marion Wallace Dunlop, arrested for painting graffiti on the House of Commons, a state institution in the capital. She went without food for 91 hours until she was released for fear that she would die. With the help of medicine, the authorities found a method to break the hunger strikes that they called forcible feeding. This treatment consisted of inserting a tube through the prisoner's mouth or cannula through the nose that allowed food to pass directly in the stomach. Each of these forcible feeding sessions was very painful and often left serious injuries. Once, a suffragette was forced to eat 232 times in one day. In the street demonstrations, clothing was a central issue. The press had created, in order to stigmatize them, a stereotype of the suffragettes as vicious, misaligned, dirty, and unfeminine people. Then, women began to wear their most elegant clothes to go out to protest, to dress in exaggerated ways as a woman. This reproduction of a type of accepted femininity following the fashion of the time was not only a way to make a good impression to gain support for the cause, it was also a way to make visible and dismantle the appearance mandates to which women were subjected. In a poster calling for a demonstration, in addition to asking people to wear elegant clothing, they asked that the colours, white, green, and violet, the colours of the suffrage movement, be used. If every individual did their part, these colours would become the reigning fashion, and, strange as it might seem, nothing would do more to popularise the WSPU, they thought. When Mary Richardson took the first stab at Velázquez's painting, the guard slipped on the waxed floor, trying to run towards the painting to defend it. This delay gave Richardson more time to continue slashing the paint. When she was arrested and before being imprisoned, Mary Richardson had to testify before journalists. She said she attempted to vandalize the painting of the most beautiful woman of the mythological past as a protest against the English government vandalizing the most beautiful person in modern history, the detained suffrage movement leader, Emmeline Pankhurst. Justice can be an element that proceeds as beautiful as colour and line on the canvas. Pankhurst is not only seeking justice for women, and she is slowly being murdered by isocratic politicians. People are outraged by the attack on a mere representation of physical beauty, but not by the government's treatment of Pankhurst, a true embodiment of moral beauty. You can recover a picture, but you cannot recover a life, and the high monetary value of paintings is compared to the high value of Mrs. Pankhurst, Richardson said. However, this act of vandalism was interpreted by the press in the opposite sense to that given by its author. Rather than attack a representation of a body, it was considered an attack on a real person. With the ideal representation suspended, Venus was considered a victim. The cuts in the painting were described as cruel wounds, and there was a talk of an attack from behind. After Mary Richardson's act of vandalism against Velázquez's work, the climate of convulsion was such that all museums in the United Kingdom closed for 2 weeks.